Hello, my friends. Hope you're doing well. So, if you haven't heard, 2819 Church had a massive and an incredible prayer meeting this past weekend where supposedly 20,000 people filled the stadium. And from what I've seen, there were another 20,000 people somewhere else in the area coming together to pray and cry out to God. Along with that was the gathering of the Black Hebrew Israelites who decided to, in some sort of protest, to come along and actually stand against what was happening at the State Farm Arena. Now, I've had for a long time thoughts about the Black Hebrew Israelites, and I have not been able to really figure out how to respond to them based on some of the antics and some of the things that they use to argue against Christians. And I came across a video that helped me understand exactly what the Christian response should be to the Black Hebrew Israelite movement. So let's take a look at this video and let's kind of digest and dissect, should I say, what's happening in this interaction between those attending the conference and those who are part of the Black Hebrew Israelite movement. Let's take a look.
2819 Access Blitz in Atlanta.
Now, I got to say, what I'm watching is very powerful. I mean, this is a powerful demonstration of religious conviction, maybe I would say even religious zeal, right? So like if I'm thinking about the first century, what's going on in the Gospels, what's going on in the book of Acts, I'm imagining this is what Rome is afraid of. And quite frankly, to be honest, America has, expressed their concern around the Black Hebrew Israelite movement, and they should. But I would go a little step further. I think they should not only be concerned about the Black Hebrew Israelite movement, but I think they should be concerned with all nationalist movements, which are not limited to the Black Hebrew Israelites. There are a ton of them out there on both sides of the political aisle, on all sorts of ethnic spectrums. And these kinds of things, history has proven, often turn very dangerous. And so while I'm like a little pumped up from the powerful unified demonstration, because there's such unity in this movement and in this, even this portrayal of a demonstration here, I'm also concerned that the nationalist ideas could cause more harm than any good that is possible. So, thoughts and feelings are all over the place about this, but let's look a little further, see what happens here. Now, look at this. Look at the people. I'm gonna rewind this back. Look at the people just kind of standing here with their cameras, right? And I absolutely get it. You're enamored. You're like, if I was standing on that sidewalk and I saw that, I probably would have my camera out too, right? Because you're looking at this, and this is like an army. You've never seen this kind of demonstration. I've never seen a religious group outside of the Nation of Islam back in the 60s and 70s, and I wasn't around to see it. So, obviously we saw depictions of it, of that movement. But we've never seen perhaps a supposed Christian group with such uniformity, such discipline, such militant drive in this generation or in this time. So the people who are standing on the side here, which are predominantly young audience, they have no framework for what they're watching, what they're seeing. Like I would not have a model for this in the present day that resembles this. And it is absolutely shocking to see that this kind of organization first and uniformity is being conveyed at this level, right? So I get it. Turning the phones on, wanting to capture it, all of that is right in line with what happens in today's world when it comes to significant events. But so, you look at this. So something in my heart wants to be thankful because I'm looking at these guys, right? And, these guys are who know what lifestyle they had before. And there's obviously some anger there. There's some frustration. There's some hate, maybe even there. But what I also want to acknowledge is that there is something that has happened to them as they pursued God that caused them to want to commit themselves to something that was a sort of a salvation from the life that they came out of. You get what I'm saying? Like, you think about the Nation of Islam as well. Like, the testimony is that, man, you think about Malcolm X. I was this hustler and this and this. And, obviously we don't agree with the Islamic faith, but you have to at least recognize the impact of the movement on that individual from one lifestyle to another. Whether it was from one bad lifestyle to another bad lifestyle, we can argue that. But there's something going on in these men that have them out here deeply convicted to protest what they consider to be a false doctrine, a false idea. I'm not here in any way praising their ideologies. What I want us to think through, however, is what's happening psychologically to these individuals to have them out here like this, and what must have happened to them prior to this moment to allow this kind of movement to be attractive to them. See, these psychological experiences, these phenomenological experiences are things that we really need to think through when we're talking to individuals who are part of movements like this. Now, I'm going to go on the record and say that I think the Black Hebrew Israelite movement is nothing more than a cult. It's like what you would see in Mormonism, or like what you would see in Jehovah's Witness, or any other movement that claims Christianity without respecting orthodoxy. But I'm always concerned and interested in how people can be deeply moved by these kinds of things, not simply from an intellectual perspective, but from an experiential perspective. They are experiencing something that makes them feel that what they are participating in is real and beneficial to them, and that alone deserves a response. We sometimes attack this kind of activity from a theological perspective. I think as Christians, we need to start thinking about the psychological and the experiential aspect of what's happening in these kinds of movements, and maybe diagnose that, dissect that, and then try to create a way of addressing that in order to communicate to them the revelation of Jesus Christ. All right. But I feel like I'm pausing too much, but this is just really good. I'm picking up so much from this video, and so much passion and so much zeal. I'm really, really trying to think through what is the Christian response to this. All right, so let's go a little further. All right, I'm gonna say this. I hear the people calling on Jesus and trying to outshout these men. Good luck with that. You're not going to win that battle. All right. These guys are primed and prepped for this kind of work. You're not going to outshout them. So that isn't the way. That's not the movement. That's not the response I think is going to be effective. And we got to find a different thing. I appreciate the response, but I don't think it's the right one. Let's see what else happens here. Do you hear that? That lying church, they lie to you. Man, this is some interesting stuff. They are so angry with the church. And there it is. That's the thing. That's what we're dealing with. The anger of individuals who have obviously tried something that did not work. And brothers and sisters, whether you're a part of the Black Hebrew Israelite movement or whether you're a part of some other movement, there are a lot of Christians that went to 2819 who have that same feeling, but they somehow or another are able to overcome it. They wrestle with the same feeling that we're being lied to, that something is not right, something's not adding up the way we think it should. And that's worth noting. That's what's leading to a lot of this hostility. All right, let's keep going. All right, so this was very interesting. There's something that I feel, and when I watched this video, it all connected for me. It is this picture of everyone holding up their phones that got me. And that's when it clicked. What we have discovered in dealing with the Black Hebrew Israelites is we're not going to shout them. We're not going to out argue them. We're not going to out debate them because they are undebatable. You can't go to them and have a decent conversation. You cannot go to them and have a sense of dialogue, right? Because it becomes a shouting match. It becomes this thing where everyone is just basically, trying to argue against each other. And at times it almost becomes to the point where it gets downright confrontational in a physical way. The thing that's so interesting about those kinds of conversations is that this is not the way that the Bible teaches us to do apologetics. So from the very beginning of the process, we are failing and incapable of producing anything that apologetics is supposed to produce when engaging with the Black Hebrew Israelite community, because the very manner in which they dialogue takes us out of the character that we are supposed to debate and dialogue and converse in, right? So we'll never win if we're engaging in a conversation that demands us to act outside of the example of Jesus Christ, right? That's not the way to do apologetics. So you're supposed to have compassion and kindness and gentleness. These are the ways in which we are to defend our beliefs. So what do we do when we're facing a movement that does not allow us to gently present our understanding and our defense of Christianity? Well, the Bible is very clear. The Bible tells us to avoid them. And I know that may not be the apology that we're looking for, the defense that we're looking for, but the Bible is very clear that whenever we run into groups, into individuals who simply want to argue and debate and yell and scream without any interest in actually hearing and understanding the point and the revelation of Jesus that we're trying to present, the Bible calls that engaging in a non or unprofitable conversation. And we should avoid that. We should completely avoid any chances of engaging in that kind of conversation. So when I look at the picture of the individuals holding up the phones there and literally being almost like starstruck, right? Like they're stricken by just the mere presence of these men walking down the street. The best response to that would have been to not take a single picture, to not pull out a single phone, to not do a single thing, but rather look straight ahead as if they're not even there. Because what we're defending against is not an argument, but it is a spirit and it is a personality that does not allow us to talk certain things that will lead us to a reasonable conclusion. But it requires us to behave a certain way. It requires a certain disposition, right? So when you look at Titus chapter 3, verse 9 through verse 11, Paul writing to this leader in the church, he says, avoid foolish controversies and genealogies and arguments and quarrels about the law, because these are unprofitable and useless. You see that? And 2 Timothy chapter 2, verse 23 through verse 26, it says, don't have anything to do with foolish and stupid arguments, because you know they produce quarrels. Proverbs chapter 26, verse 4 says, do not answer a fool according to his folly, or you yourself will become just like him. Matthew chapter 10, verse 14 says, if anyone will not receive you or listen to your words, shake the dust off your feet when you leave that house or town. Go on about your business. You see, when we have tried so adamantly to approach the Black Hebrew Israelite community with dignity, respect, and with peace, and we've been resisted over and over again and diminished to a screaming match, You see, that then takes us out of the very character of the one that we're supposed to represent. And the Bible says when that becomes the thing that you have to do to try to convince someone of your hope, then what you should do is avoid them. I would love to see Christians take a posture. Here's what I suggest, that when you see a black Hebrew Israelite, you just keep moving. In fact, when you see any nationalist, whether it is a black nationalist or a white nationalist or any other one, just keep moving. Unless it allows you the opportunity to peacefully and with dignity provide your explanation of why you believe in Jesus, as to converse and exchange ideas, here's what the Bible teaches us. Avoid them. Wouldn't it be powerful? Wouldn't it be a powerful statement that when we see the black Hebrew Israelites coming down the street with such uniformity and such zeal and conviction and militant actions, that they don't see us over there squirming and getting all tight and like trying to do, but they just see us simply obeying the word of God, and we look straight. We act as if they have not even entered into our environment, and we let them scream, and we let them shout, and we let them yell and say whatever it is they want to say. And we present the unique Christ-like apology of not just defending the word or the revelation of Jesus Christ with our mouths, but with our character and with our behavior, by looking, living, and behaving like Jesus would, and like he's told us to in his word. I think this is the best defense against the black Hebrew Israelite movement. And whether or not we win an argument or not, that is beyond the point. It is, how do we present the best example of Jesus in a world that knows nothing about him? That's the greatest defense of all. And I think that's one Christians should try out.